that many people get really close, but they don't get there. They can speak wistfully and eloquently on the culture and history associated with Yosemite, but making that next leap to historic preservation and the actual preservation of a cultural resource, I think they're more inclined to let something sort of romantically deteriorate into the landscape because that's its natural setting. And I think that that's something that needs some examination.
One of the things, and I'm not sure to present to you or present to her, whoever's recording, but I'd like to give, okay, here you go. But that's an example of something that the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition did in conjunction with NOAA, and we also invited the EPA, and we've been consistently working ever since the beginning of the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition back in 1996 with the National Park Service on numerous things, the Underground Railroad Network to Freedom, and getting the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Act bill passed. But one of the things that I've done for over 20 years now is ecotourism. And so having to get people onto the land to actually realize the things that were already stated, that as indigenous people to the land, Gullah Geechee culture grew up on the Sea Islands from Jacksonville, North Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida. So we have both indigenous American ancestry, Native American ancestry, and African ancestry. And getting people to understand, for us, the waterways are our bloodline and the land is our family, instead of seeing these things as silos and separate. And so that's been a big battle, working with the Park Service. Like you said, it takes how many years for y'all to get it? But now I'm glad we're here, because I think this is a success. AGO, I think, is a success, and getting people to understand that these things are interconnected, and that interconnectivity is what people can celebrate and see themselves reflected in it. And so the report I'm giving you is called The Land of We Gullah Geechee Sustainability, because we did an entire workshop about what does this word sustainable mean to my people, the Gullah Geechees, and how can others outside of our world per se and our culture help us to sustain it by living from the water, living from the land, because they work for the agencies that then legislate for them. And so we'd like to be able to work with you, because the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor is a national heritage area. It runs through where we are. And so what we're seeing with that is people are focusing now on tourism that's driven by the park, but then disconnecting themselves from the actual people who are the reason you got the legislation. So that's not a good practice. We need to practice letting people realize the reality of the culture and how it is connected, and how these agencies work within that, and how we can do more together.
Perfect. It's a partnership. It's something that we all have to agree on in making it.
Anyone else want to comment?
Well, I thought one thought, I think, is getting back to kind of the federal monies and whatnot. There's some great programs out there, matching programs for conservation. And thanks to Secretary Salsar and other chiefs of the agencies, programs like NOAA's Community-Based Restoration Program, and NRCS's Farm Bill Conservation Program. These are all programs that, if they can continue to be funded, are great opportunities to partner with private companies like ourselves, conservation organizations, and others. And it's a great opportunity to show the collaboration between private groups, tribes, and the federal government in accomplishing some of these conservation measures that we need to do. So for me, it was to support those programs, and we appreciate your support of those programs.
I don't know anything about the specific situation, so I can't speak to that, but I can just talk in a broader sense, and I think Francis touched upon this, is the whole concept of trying to protect and develop ecosystems that make sense, that actually support an entire set of flora and fauna. And I think that that's where these partnerships make so much sense, because you've got an entity like the federal government that has hundreds of millions, almost 900 million acres of land that's part of their trusteeship, and these can be the basis for developing these contiguous systems that are pristine, that are clean, and that have developed healthy environments. And we've seen that environments can come back, both in the coral reefs that have been restored and other areas that have been restored. And Francis's example is a perfect example of that. So I think we just need to be aware of the fact that these systems have to be developed as an ecosystem, and that they have to be protected and, areas put aside for that kind of thing. So looking at the bigger picture, I think it's going to help with these kind of efforts.
I'm Lisa Jackson. I'm Administrator of the United States Environmental Protection Agency. Thanks for joining us as we get settled. I thought I'd open with a few remarks and then we'll introduce our panelists. Nancy will do that after I speak. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So it's really great to be here to kick off this very important conference. The America's Great Outdoors Initiative is a great example of how agencies across this administration are coming together to align our goals and our work with local communities. And that alignment with communities is making a real difference across the country. And I'm really happy that EPA is a leading part of this effort. Our country's incredible landscape, from the mountains to the oceans and everything in between, has defined us in so many ways. I also know that places we may not think of as the great outdoors, the urban waterfronts, the parks in our cities, play a huge part in shaping communities. Many of you know I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I remember how lucky I felt to have the city on one hand, but then when I came to understand the incredible ecosystem of the Gulf right there on the other. The Gulf was and is a defining part of New Orleans. It's not just a cornerstone of the local economy, though it is. It permeates the culture, the food, and the way of life for thousands and thousands of people. Between the Gulf, Pontchartrain Park, and Congo Square, and Louis Armstrong Park, and other great spaces, we were all connected to the outdoor elements of our city. And I believe it's important for people and families and communities across the country to be connected with the great outdoors right in their own local neighborhoods. Open spaces and clean ecosystems support healthy and vibrant communities. The CDC found that access to places for physical activity led to a 26% increase in people exercising 3 or more days per week. But we know it works for our economy too. An urban park in Greenville, South Carolina, for example, saw more than $100 million in private investment in the surrounding area in the 2 years following its creation. But stories like this are still today too few and far between. All too often, especially in urban areas, the outdoors aren't so welcome. Too often, local water bodies are polluted and degraded, and too many parks are unkempt, littered, and uninviting. That's why this cross-agency initiative is so important. For our part at EPA, we have programs like our Smart Growth Program and the Partnership for Sustainable Communities that are focusing on green spaces and green infrastructure, working to help lower pollution and create spaces and walkable neighborhoods that help people get outside. Today, for example, EPA's Region 1, the City of Boston, and an impressive list of local partners announced the Circle in the City program. It's in Boston, and it's to encourage people to get out of their homes and make better use of the city's great outdoors. Last year, we created the Urban Waters Federal Partnership with 10 other agencies. Ties into our initiative today. That partnership works to transform the waters of urban areas into clean and accessible resources that can serve as the centerpieces of communities. I'm happy to announce today the newest component of that work, a program we're calling the Urban Water Ambassadors. These ambassadors will be deployed to project sites where they can work directly alongside local partners and help connect people to their local waters. Having those connections and working closely with local communities gives us a better understanding of specific needs and ways to best target our efforts. This leads to important work beyond even the Urban Waters Partnership sites themselves. We saw this recently in my hometown. In New Orleans, when we learned of the work of the Lake Pontchartrain community and all they were doing to restore water resources following the devastation of Hurricane Katrina, we were impressed. The entire neighborhood, like so many others, was hit hard. A local pier and lighthouse were destroyed by the storm and flooded. But a group in the area came together to salvage the remaining pieces of the lighthouse structure. And they've been planning all these years to rebuild the lighthouse on the same site. Once it's rebuilt, they would like the lighthouse to become a place for the community to visit. And not just to visit, but to come and understand the importance of water quality and the vital role of water resources. In engaging community stakeholders through our Urban Waters work, we learned about this project and its importance to the community. We joined the effort, and we were able to engage an important federal partner, that's FEMA. Why are they important? Because they have some resources that they could bring to the table. The project broke ground on Monday, congratulations, and soon the new Canal Lighthouse Education Center will serve the New Orleans community and the state of Louisiana. As a daughter of New Orleans and someone who grew up literally riding my bike every weekend to hang out by Lake Pontchartrain, because I was in what's called the Pontchartrain Park neighborhood, this project is particularly close to my heart. I'm glad to see that today the people are rebuilding their neighborhoods and cleaning up the outdoor spaces so their natural beauty can be restored and families can enjoy them once again. It's important for this type of work to happen all over the country. And thanks to the America's Great Outdoors initiative, it is. It's happening in Los Angeles. It's happening in the Bronx. And as we'll hear shortly from your friends nearby in Anacostia as well. We've got a lot more work ahead of us to make sure all communities can enjoy all the benefits of clean open spaces. It's work worth doing, and I'm so proud that EPA is a part of it. I want to thank you very much. Now we'll introduce our esteemed panelists who've been working in this field and leading it for a long time. And with that, I have to turn it over to a leader you've already heard from, and that's Nancy Sutley, Chair of the President's Council of Environmental Law. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
Mm-hmm.